you free. Truth is love, freedom above. Find out what's below the surface they want you to know. Bring back the sunken land. We reveal the hidden hand. Free your energy with ancient technology. The future is now and we're going back. Remove the state of deception as we chart our own map. The future is now and we're going back to back up the present with the knowledge we stack. It's not the way they say. It's time that you come out to play. They don't know the way, so we've gone astray. All our effort and time and wealth was taken away. The knowledge sets free a frequency to be. Wake up and you'll see it's not the way they say. The future is now and we're going back. Remove the state of deception as we chart our own map. The future is now and we're going back to back up the present with the knowledge we stack. It's not the way they say. It's time that you come out to play with love in your soul and freedom on your mind. The truth in your heart, birth of a new mankind. The future is now and we're going back. Remove the state of deception as we chart our own map. The future is now and we're going back to back up the present with the knowledge we stack.
Ooh, yeah. Keep enjoying. The episode's about to start. Just to like get a little deeper into the rap moment.
Here we are. Welcome, everybody. This is Niropa.
Ain't it though? Ain't it great? Ain't it grand?
Spectacular. Thanks to all of you joining. Otherwise, we'd have no spectators. I guess that would make it less spectacular. So,
It's a spectacle, whether people see it or not. Ask the blind man; he saw it too. Naropa is
La
people's
Société
favorite
du
day.
Spectacle. Great book by Jean Baudrillard, I believe. Maybe I showed it once. Where everything has become a spectacle, certainly in modern attention economy, at least in the West, where people don't worry about where their food or their clothes come from, but they care about the spectacle. So we'll do our best to make it entertaining enough.
Raph makes everybody, you have that sophistication, my friend. You can go into any place and just stand there and be like, I come from a land where they have books, It's good. It's good.
Yeah. They have books or they burn books. It's not exactly clear.
That's true. They did this both of those. Yeah, good point. All right, let me make sure my microphone's on my proper microphone. You guys like the sound of this? Does this microphone sound better? I'm gonna just leave it
No,
on.
this actually sounds worse for some reason.
Really? Well, then I'm gonna.
I would
Okay.
kind of say so, but
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna use my internal MacBook microphone. We have a new member now, Timothy Tice. Is that how you say that? Tice? Timothy Tice. Thank you for joining us. And then also Post is back. Post is back as a renewed member. Love having you, Post. I love seeing you every day. And so is Timmy. It's awesome. You guys are great. Thank you so much. Well, this is a really exciting day because we have an entire, as Raph does, he's created a new list for our log when you go to commensi.at and you can check out the Naropa log. We've had before the no visa, no entry, technocracy, and then today, though, is free association. I think free association is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to go through some subjects, obviously. The big ones are currently, which is like concurrent new world, which you can imagine is going to be interesting. And then we're going to get to Austria a little earlier this time because a lot of the time we don't get to Austria until so late in the show. You guys don't get to see what's up in the world, but that'll be good. We'll talk a little bit about the flat Earth and the globe and the Earth-shaped models area. There's some interesting stuff there. I know I've been getting calls all the time, all of a sudden, from random people that are. I mean, it's funny. I thought this was like a open and shut case, but no, it seems like this has now become the
Since
most.
when are you getting those calls? Because technically the experiment they supposedly did was in December, and
Right. Well, the
amazing.
final experiment was the beginning of all the bullets. And now everyone's always telling me like it's been solved or it hasn't been solved. That thing has just started. It's all it was an icebreaker.
What's
Get
the
it,
percentage you're
Antarctica?
getting? Like solved or unsolved or
It depends. I think a lot of people just they want to go into it thinking that thing either solved everything or that it was a complete lie. Either way, it's like it didn't do what they said it would do. It didn't like end the conversation. But let me just also remind people that we're going to get it from images into transformation, and that's going to be the main point
yeah.
of the show.
There's not so much. We'll see, how long we're going today. Actually, because there's not so many links, I pulled up some images, at least some of them I want to show, which I just, collected over the past year or whatever.
Yeah. By the way, I loved
very-
that song. Made me want to roller skate. Just so you know, like the futures. Now I'm into that one. That was good. That was fun.
Oh yeah. I tried to, how should I say, have it both interesting and not say anything too wrong in the song. So
Yeah. Well.
yeah.
Side effects might
Yeah.
include artificial insemination.
Yeah, and artificial intelligence.
Oh my God.
So yeah, where we start with, you have heard of this guy, of course. Maybe I brought him up very briefly one time.
Chikumbutsu.
Chikumbutsu. And actually, I'm gonna
Oh
pull
yeah,
this
yeah,
up again
yeah.
now.
Isn't he like an inventor who made some sort of weird car or something like that? He's like some like fuel cell. Yeah.
I think what we showed first was the TV, and now he supposedly made a car. And I just want to look this up again because, of course, with these kind of things, immediately I want to know, what's in the name? What's a name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And Google Translate tells me it doesn't have a secure connection, which I find a little bit strange. Oh, makes sense because I spelled it wrong. Let's see.
Well, I just remember Chikumbutsu because he ended up on all of the Associated Press, and you know how we love them for fiction, but they like to do these kind of like psyop articles that you're like, wait, I never heard of this guy. Why are you telling me? The fact checks are the ones that really blow my mind. It's like, fact check on what? Who's been telling people this? And then why would you pay somebody, Mackenzie Sadeghi, to write an article basically denouncing an African man? So fact check, no evidence. And Zimbabwean inventor created a chargeless electric car. This is how most people were introduced to him, essentially. So rather than introduce who he is or what he's trying to do, just sort of try to convince people that he's some sort of a con artist, right? That's like, they want the most people in the world to immediately associate this guy with a con artist. And I think that's kind of interesting because there's less evidence that he's a con artist than you'd think. In fact, he seems like a pretty solid up and up. I wouldn't call him a professional engineer. I mean, he is an inventor, I would say, but he does have a lot of mechanical awareness. Clearly, he's making all sorts of things, not just chargers electric cars. But here, anyway, is
yeah, he's been around for a bit. So what I wanted to look up, and actually, I believe that when I checked this a few days ago, I think it was a different translation. Chikumbutsu now on Google Translate says his name is Beetle, which would also be interesting. I believe when I checked earlier, it was something else, Heritage or something like that. But then the other issue, of course, is if the wiki article is correct, then there are no less than 16 languages spoken in Zimbabwe. So now I'd have to go through the whole list, and see what each dialect would throw at me. If anyone, of course, in the chat knows, tell us.
I mean, just look how much effort they've gone into debunking this man's existence. That does seem suspicious to me. Why not, I mean, do it a different way, Say he's like, I mean, they didn't do this kind of thing with most of the Silicon Valley DNA companies, right?
They didn't do it with any AI companies or anything that Musk ever created and didn't deliver on, like the Hyperloop. No one was like, US billionaire scam artists didn't deliver after 10 years. Where's my the Cybertruck exists. Where's my Tesla Roadster? That's the joke.
Thank you. That's all I'm saying. It just seems really suspicious, or conspicuous, I guess is conspicuous, that they're so hell-bent on defaming this man. That's what seems suspicious about it. And I'm not saying he's, like some sort of a saint. I mean, I'm just saying, like, whoa, why are they attacking this guy who's clearly put a lot? I mean, if you look at some of the stuff he's doing, he has put a lot of effort into inventing stuff. And he has a lot of interesting ideas. Now, maybe he's a con artist, but that just seems like a lot. That seems like a lot of work to I mean, look what he's doing. I mean, right? Like, he's building these fuel cell battery packs and supercapacitor systems, and he has all sorts of ideas about why. The real reason fundamentally they're against him is that if his technology worked, then it would violate the Eurocentric laws of thermodynamics, right?
Well,
we have rules.
We have rather say, yeah. I mean those, but even isn't his name? What's his first name?
Maxwell.
Well, Maxwell.
Yeah, like
Maxwell equations. Isn't that like kind of related to the whole thing? But what I really love about it, maybe we can check out the comments. Let's see on that video, because some, here we are. Yeah, right. Isn't that kind of funny? So it's like the Maxwell Beetle, if Beetle is the right word. Beetle was a famous car, I guess. So, who knows? But the comments are pretty funny below that video, because some people literally are like, it's not maybe about the thermodynamics law, but it's more about the law. Oh, Africa bad, cannot deliver anything. Maybe more or less like that. So it can't be anything. It has to be a Nigerian prince scam, basically. Of course,
of course. That's the way they look at it. Yeah.
All that's pretty clear to me is that if anything here would work, there are, also in the Western model, what we love to completely dismiss is any type of, how should I say, electrostatic, etheric, or scalar wave energy being around at all. Even though I believe even there's famous inventors or whatever that say, oh, there's so much energy in every square centimeter. I've heard of different applications. One was by I want to say German or Swiss company, Joe Conrad interviewed quite a few years ago. Maybe I showed this to you at some point, where what they did is they were stacking maybe even graphene layers and like folding them. And the first application they then wanted to do was simply put it in watches, to be like, okay, that's innocuous enough. We're not going to ruin your car industry or your fuel-based economy. We're just going to put it into a watch. But also there, I didn't really see any release or popular thing yet. So how should I say? Energy these days is only allowed to be derived from fossil fuels, coal, and maybe nuclear power plants. But anything beyond that is immediately dismissed as a scam or as something, instead of saying, oh, well, maybe let's look closer into this. Although, as I mentioned before in this particular example, if I was this guy, I would be worried, or I would at least get the direct protection of I want to say the president of the US, but that's not going to happen, because he's not open sourcing his stuff. He wasn't able to get a patent. And then he said he's basically going to include some type of detonation mechanism that if you tamper with the cables, it's simply going to explode, which I think that's a very risky business plan. And
for a lot of reasons.
We'll see where this goes. But it's very interesting, even just the reactions of people, because they're thinking, oh, nothing good can come out of Africa or whatever, which of course is incredibly racist, let me say.
Well, I mean, so I think the thought is that in Africa, amazing innovation is possible, but there's a lot of corruption, and then there are ideological issues.
So like in the US?
Yeah. But the ideological issues that Africa have, for instance, that this guy wants to patent this idea instead of open sourcing it, and I think that's the thing. It's not very Ubuntu. It should be open source, like you said, for the betterment of Africa as well as for
even
the
just for
protection
his
of the idea. Yeah.
of his protection, even just on a very
Yeah.
personal level, you know.
Yeah, there's no reason to kill you if everything is already out there. Like, what are they going to do about it? It's too late. Like, they have to focus on trying to shut down the technology instead of shutting you down. If you're the only person that has it, you're the only person they have to take out. So hopefully he realizes this. If he really has something that's not complete nonsense, that he has to make it available for the whole world. And if it's true and he's done this, then that means essentially the end of the old energy scarcity system that we've been living off of, right? So
This, and of course the other part is some people that are hip to it are aware of the patent office may as well be the organized sequestering of any relevant ideas the population at large has. And here I would also love to know which patent office he went to, because most likely they already photocopied everything, and probably, if not already by now, some type of military probably will implement this, in some way, shape, or form, if there's
of course.
anything to it, right? So we're gonna see if then exactly you have the robots, you have the autonomous attack robots with infinite energy.
Not that this is exactly the same, but another African scam artist, right? So Joe Rogan and Elon Musk just had this episode recently, and so this one I found particularly irritating of an episode. So you've just got this like total. I got to be polite here, but it seems disingenuous how much Joe Rogan just really showboats Elon Musk and is just, what do you call it, where you gloss somebody super hard, to like give them try to make, yeah, exactly. He's glazing. And so then Elon Musk is talking to him about the technology that's available. Now that I'm in the White House, I have all this access with the government to all of this technology. I can see everything. I've got declassified, cleared for the weird. I can see it all. Oh yeah, that's great. So what about, like space level anti-gravity technology? What about that? Oh no. We have nothing like that. That's never existed ever. It's like, really nothing. So no, like, so Lockheed Martin, they don't have anything valuable, or no, nothing like that. I don't know. The whole episode just seemed ridiculous. It was like, okay,
just start with any type of more efficient energy conversion or whatever it would be. Let's not even talk about anti-gravity or
they're all
free
related.
anything.
Free energy and anti-gravity are totally related concepts.
Of course. But I'm even just talking about more effective way of transforming energy from one form to another, because even here so much energy gets lost. Like,
True.
What is the efficiency of a regular fuel car? 30% or something like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of ridiculous. And even many years ago, there was this interview with the GWE company. I had mentioned this to you before, also interviewed by Joe Conrad in Germany. And they had developed something called Blockheizkraftwerk, which was simply like, I guess, a block or whatever. You put in, I believe, water and maybe some oil, and it created a decent amount of energy. The guy who ran it was very cautious. He didn't want to overpromise. He said, I'm only going to accept orders up to 30 million now. Then I want to produce them, and only then we're going to continue. But in between, he got raided by the Bundesnachrichtendienst, so the German CIA, basically. And they literally told him, oh, yeah, you can't have this. We're shutting down the operation. And by the way, we really want to combine your technology with some sort of Indian offshore wind power company or something, So, yeah. And since then, the running joke I have, pure speculation, is of course that, below the offshore wind power plants, they actually have some kind of a small thing which maybe just takes in the seawater, and then everyone can be like, yeah, renewable energy, it works so well, But maybe there's something completely different underneath. I don't know. It's unclear.
Oh my God.
They love to sequester this stuff.
What about scientists just prove that the past can change? You've seen this one. What's Danny Jones' interview here doing?
So I'll be perfectly honest, I haven't even, let's say, looked into the exact details of this. I just found it interesting because this is something that quite a few channelers and like new age information would say, maybe even some psychologists would say to a certain extent, that the present actually...
Old news is the double split screen experiment, supposedly.
Okay, well, that's
Yeah.
common.
But that's the idea. They think that the double split screen experiment proves that there's simultaneously multiple realities at the same time. And that if you can affect something, there'll be retrocausality, which is exactly why that movie Primer, the idea that if you have a machine running indefinitely, that it'll be able to interact with itself in the past because there's a solid ionic loop, and those ions are the same ion. Yeah, the whole
And
thing.
what they mention here, which I believe is confirmed, is the idea that if you're shown pictures, like your heart rate may increase even before you see maybe an upsetting picture or something like that.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's
anticipates. We have
into
definitely
into the future, and also this idea that even when taking actions, it
Russell.
appears as if, how should I say, even before you yourself are aware of having a thought, the relevant processes in your brain or areas already are sparking up, basically. So this again, poses the whole question: where is free will? What are we really? Where is the impetus for anything really coming from? All still open questions.
We got to try to interview Russell before it's too late. He's 90 now. I think it'd be good to get him on the conversation with a Europa episode would be good. He knows a lot. He's a pretty interesting guy.
So here, just as an opinion piece, but maybe you already kind of revealed it with your pop culture reference. So would you say that the present can change the past, or the past can be changed? Well, we're in the middle of it anyways. Not only
Yeah.
talking about rewriting history books, by the way.
Right. Like, so theoretically, there is no past or future. There's only the present, and there's different navigations of continuity. I think that's probably the way to look at it. Maybe. I think if the past and the future are simultaneously existing in whatever we're defining as the present, but we're unable to experience different arrangements of the moment because we're trapped in a continuity. That also explains why we experience psychism. We're thinking it's psychic intuition, essentially, just because it's slightly broader awareness of what's going on. And that's essentially what Russell Targ was all about, or when his originally, was hired by the intelligence agencies. He started out first doing engineering with lasers, and I think you can watch Russell's band TED Talk. We have it on Exertus. You can check that out and watch it. He talks about how he used to do these science experiments with lasers, and they found they had better luck with consciously affecting with their mind the outcome of what they wanted the laser to do, and started realizing actually this was bigger than science. This is psychism. A certain amount of panpsychism is involved with physics, and psychic physics is, that's the real art that defines whether or not you're able to change this moment to the next moment. We just tend to look at that conclusion as continuity. Well, we made this choice and it leads to that choice, but it could be on a far more subtle and broad level. Oh, maybe McAfee was psychic.
I'm just wondering right now, so which of the episodes were banned? I think there's a list somewhere, right? Because I know Rupert Sheldrake's talk was banned, although the talk, I would say, was quite relevant.
Well, if you type in Russell Targ if you type Russell Targ Exertus, you'll find it very quickly. I think it comes up pretty fast. This is a lot of views, 37K views on my channel. Russell Targ banned TED Talk right at the top right here. And it's a pretty interesting conversation. There's a number of other things that he's done, but this was one where I think they decided that it wasn't exactly what they wanted to present for a number of reasons. So they wanted to pull this one off. But it's a decent 37 minutes long. There's about as many minutes as there are thousands of viewers. So, and it's interesting also. Let me just go to the very end point. I think it's around here. Let me just right here. I think it's at
time. You are that awareness. I was talking to the cab driver. He was from San Andreas and gave me a color photograph of the airport on the island. How's that? This is my lucky day.
So he talks at the very beginning of the conversation about Andreas. It's like Andreas becomes a symbol that's very important to him.
And that's where he was. He was on an island airport off the coast of Colombia called San Andreas. My great coincidence of the day, as I was driving here, I was talking to the cab driver. He was from San Andreas and gave me a color photograph of the airport on the island.
So he's got a number. That was an interesting 3Sync that he was doing a remote view of the island of San Andreas. He saw a picture of San Andreas while he's driving to San Andreas, California to do the talk. And, just gets a little bit deeper from there. But I would highly recommend checking out the band TED Talk for a number of reasons. I think it's important stuff.
That's nice, Jan. Actually, together with Jim, we even interviewed Rupert Sheldrake now already 4 years ago. And yeah, of course, Andreas fault line.
It's all
It's
my
just
it's always
highly
my fault.
interesting. Why would you have to ban TED Talks or anything like that? I mean, it goes along the same lines basically as with Jim, what's his name? Maxwell. Let's just call him Maxwell. What is not allowed to be possible in order to sustain the system that some people are greatly profiting from. Let's rather not give people any different ideas, or they wouldn't be maybe so fearful anymore or whatever.
Mythoclass is
they're
saying
aiming at.
sometimes the screen share is not presenting. So let us know if we have any problems with the presentation. If you're not seeing it, just let us know and we'll try to fix it. There's been some weird things because StreamYard just had some update. And so just so you know. Yeah, blame me. It's my fault for sure.
It now literally says beta on the bottom left, so God knows,
Betas. All right, but is McAfee dead or alive? I would go with alive because it's just more fun that way. What do you think?
Yeah, so I found this when I was researching this, or got the idea from someone. Here it's curious. Another of those videos that has almost no views.
I love that it has
What
a
is-
crisis lifeline number
Yeah,
just in
like,
case.
wow.
If you watch John McAfee too much, you might end up dead. So that makes sense.
Yes,
Oh, John McAfee says he faked a heart attack in Guatemalan jail. Will wait in
Yes.
Miami for his first 2 girlfriends. This is evidence that he, about 10 or so years earlier, did fake a heart attack to escape a jail. And so, when he died in a jail in Spain, people were wondering, did he fake it again? I mean, it seems like a good way to go.
At the end of that video, and anyone interested, you can check out the links below to the show notes. There is even a conversation with a woman, and she claims that she spoke to him 2 weeks after he died and kind of said, yeah, actually wanted to run away with me or something like that. And yeah, so there is clues for that at least.
Yeah, how much
Exactly. That is the question.
Well, there's definitely some questions about McAfee that we have to look into, but this video looks interesting. So it's only 7 minutes long if you want to look into the speculation that John McAfee didn't die in prison and has actually escaped his own fate and maybe even has a new identity somewhere, living as someone else than himself, which it happens. We know this. Oh my God. Is this Michelle? Yeah. I'm one of these I almost want to go right now and grab my my Nickelodeon orange cassette tape from Harriet the Spy. I still have the original Harriet the Spy orange cassette tape. I was a big fan of Michelle Trachtenberg. And so I said this yesterday, but I'll bring it up again, that I hadn't seen the original Superman movie because, Chris going and becoming quadriplegic kind of made that a bummer. It was just blanked out for my generation unless you were super into it. And I didn't see when I had wanted to rewatch Eurotrip for some reason. So I downloaded Eurotrip. And so the day before Michelle Trachtenberg died, I found her on Instagram and followed her. So the next morning she was dead. And I thought that was just insane. And then Gene Hackman. So I was watching Superman and Superman 2 and The Conversation. And The Conversation with Gene Hackman is a movie about a private NSA CIA
this is
spy.
amazing because I'm just checking. It really literally. Oh, now it was showing. Okay, I'm just checking whether on the stream now it's showing. It's all right. Okay.
Are you guys seeing any of this stuff? Hopefully you guys are seeing this. So Gene Hackman made a movie called The Conversation, which is about the state of the art listening and espionage technology that the NSA had at the time. And they constantly have different microphone systems, and they have these dudes in vans, ice cream trucks, listening on everybody.
Sorry,
and then
but
they're picking up
what
the
a name is
signals.
this? Gene Hackman?
Right. Exactly. The hacking of the man's genes. Yeah, it's very interesting to me. But he died right after I was while I was watching The Conversation. I read that they had I was reading that they were discovering his body. So it's just this is interesting to me how that transpired. But maybe did you want to listen to this, or what should we do with this particular clip?
Well, all I want to listen to here. So of course you see her as so many. I know I don't even want to know all the things that happened to her to get into that spot. But what I found interesting, and I'm not sure if I then found the reference at the end and if it's really her, but it may well be just the very last minute of this thing. You should see a new scene. Yeah, right here, from here, basically, just the last. Well, you have to with sound. Is that her?
Is it? I couldn't tell. I don't
Well,
think
this
so.
is not
Ship to
just.
the
No, that's not her.
continental
Okay,
has
it's not
been
her.
by thine
I'm not sure who that's supposed to.
revoked.
Oh, this is from John Wick, right? Yeah, no, she's not in.
Membership to the continent.
She's not in John Wick, but maybe you're saying that she's like this character.
Miss Perkins,
Oh, maybe.
your membership to the Continental has been by thine own hand revoked.
So you're thinking maybe she's been revoked. Well, I did when I was following her. Also, because she was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is one of my favorite shows, and so I went and also was looking at Seth Green's Instagram. I think I showed this yesterday. That Seth Green, who made a movie with her that was a few years ago, and you remember the Isaac Cappy conspiracy where Isaac Cappy died, and he was suggesting that a number of celebrities were doing some terrible things. And I was looking to see, when is he going to say something? When is Seth going to say something about Michelle Trachtenberg? And I haven't found anything yet. All the other celebrities who knew her posted something about her, but he didn't. I'm not saying that he has to, but for someone who worked with her so much, made movies and produced projects with her, specifically him and her co-produced a movie together and acted in it together. But no, instead, all I could find was this interesting post where he's wearing a Pizza Party t-shirt under this man. I think he's got an OtterBox t-shirt, and it says, "Happy birthday to my twin brother, Steve Aggie. Truly the greatest doppelganger a funhouse mirror could ask for. Please wish this stellar human a very happy birthday." Something about that just seemed kind of strange. Right?
How is this possible that they have such a difference in height?
Well, I mean, for one thing, they're not really related. For another thing, yeah, I don't know. Seth Green is
Now,
tiny.
that's confidence inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird, it's like it's one thing that the sentences are weird. It's another thing when they wear the Pizza Party shirt, and like the Pizza Party shirt, if you're not paying attention to it, it is cocaine. These are pieces of pizza that are doing lines of Parmesan with straws on tables, like in effigy of cocaine. So could be whatever you want. Just thought that was interesting. Hope to eventually learn more about Michelle Trachtenberg, but we probably won't because her family asked for no autopsy, which is completely reasonable because like religious Jewish families don't like to have their children cut up after
well,
death. Yeah.
All that I'm
Sure.
aware of through the Synchronous group is that this was apparently on Walpurgis night,
Right.
which is, an auspicious date. And also what I then looked up, because I didn't really watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, to be honest.
Shame on
But I
you.
looked up her role, and then also people commenting, and apparently like she has special properties, like her blood
yeah.
or whatever can open the door to other dimensions. Then you add in the date and so on, and I want to hope that she actually just escaped to, I don't know,
So
somewhere beyond or below, but
in the teenage melodrama soap opera that I was obsessed with, and I used to race home from my church youth group in order to watch, what happened was season 3 or 4, I think it's season 4, at the end of college year, there's a dream episode where Buffy the Vampire Slayer hears "Don't forget to be back before dawn." And that's the cue that this new character will be emerging named Dawn. And at the beginning of season 5, all of a sudden, Buffy has always had a sister. This is one of the first Mandela effects that is pushed on American television. every character is like aware that there's always been Buffy's younger sister. And there's never been Buffy's younger sister for the audience watching for the first time. But all the characters have supplanted memories of her. They were babysitting her. They were taking care of her. She's always been a pain and a struggle. And they don't know exactly why until later. But there's some inconsistencies with her life story. And the reason being is she's not really Buffy's sister. She's actually a key, like you just said, a blood key to the portal. And her sacrifice, the murder and death of her and blood, will lead to opening the portal, which would bring open for this goddess, right? And there's a goddess who wants to take over the world. And with Buffy, it's like you had a vampire as the bad guy boss. Every season you get a bad boss, right? You get a vampire boss, then you've got a demon boss, then you got like this lord of the, military controlling the vampires in season 3 and 4 in college and whatever. You lead eventually to a god. Like, how are we going to defeat a god? That seems almost impossible. And so the conclusion, if you care at all about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, is they find out that their memories have been forged, they're fake, and yet this is the Slayer, the chosen one, is been given this key as a sister in order to have that love for the key so that she'll protect it, right? Like it's her own sister. And Buffy the Vampire Slayer ends up sacrificing herself and going to, they think hell, but actually heaven, because she was altruistic and good. And her blood is the same blood, and that blood is enough to close the portal. And then Buffy's sister Dawn continues on living in the show, right? But it's interesting because it's all about the essentiality of sacrificing Michelle Trachtenberger's character, right? That's really kind of a strange phenomenon.
Okay, so now I was just looking up because the way you described the boss levels reminded me of Stargate. And at least to a basic AI search, it says there is no overlap in writers. However, of course, tropes are often, interchanged between franchises. Yeah.
There's enough controversy actually with Joss Whedon. Now, I used to be at least a huge fan of Joss Whedon. I'm a huge fan of some pretty controversial characters, I've noticed. Like, not that I necessarily like the guy because I don't know him or anything, but I like Neil Gaiman. I would say also his Sandman comics, even though I had a bad feeling at a certain point, which turned out to be true. That the guy turned out to be the scum of the earth and a Me Tooing Weinstein-like character. Joss Whedon creating a series. I mean, his fantasy is a vampire comes up behind a little blonde girl and tries to bite her in the neck. And then that little blonde girl turns around and jams a freaking wooden stake into the heart of the vampire. And that's, everybody's got a kink. And so for the number of times he's written, he ended up making Disney movies, the Justice League, the comic book movies. He seemed to know enough about the Marvel universe that they put him in charge of the Marvel universe, even to the extent of he led the Justice League movie where they shot it at the linear accelerator. They actually did a whole thing inside of a linear accelerator for the movie. So that was one of those interesting moments where Disney comic book super Marvel expanded universe, the multiverse theory came into reality in a sense because it's actually happening at the place that people are saying the Mandela effect is happening. So this is the second or third time he's made a show that has to do with multiverse, parallel reality, changed memories, Mandela effects, right? And he also did Firefly, Angel, a number of really cool shows. One of my favorites was Dollhouse. Dollhouse was a show about a multi-billion-dollar company that rents your bodies. So you get these young people in LA who take their memories out of their heads and put them into a storage server, and then their bodies have new personalities installed on them, and they get paid like $20 million for 5 years of their life. And they get essentially sexually assaulted, turned into detectives, whatever, doesn't matter. People will pay to use these people for 5 years. And then after that, they have their memories reinstalled in their heads. They don't remember what they've been put through, right? And because they were in the dollhouse, right? So it's a very interesting MK Ultra show. And he seems to know a lot about these things. However, the controversies were so bad about his sexual harassment and his anger. He used to hold actors up against the wall. At one point, he wanted to get rid of the character Spike. It's a vampire on the show, but the actors was so popular with the audience. The television station didn't want them to get rid of this character, and they demanded he keep this character because people kept writing in and asking for it. So he took the actor, pushed him up against the wall by the throat, and said, "Don't ever forget, this is my effing show," and just terrified a lot of people working on the show. And the more I watched of it, the more I realized how it worked. Like, if he didn't like you, if you did anything that wasn't perfectly humble as some sort of Midwest actor, if he didn't appreciate you, he would kill you off very quickly. And then the characters yeah, which is like, it doesn't matter if you die in a vampire show, by the way. You know, like, you can be brought back if they want you. Like, there's anything you can want, you can do whatever. But for the most part, characters were kept based on the fact that he liked working with them. That's very normal, I think. It's just, it turned out to be a very toxic environment, is what everyone was saying. Silas is calling it a Mandela effect instead of a Mandela effect. Intentional? Yeah, it is. That wasn't clear. I know that it's not quite, it's a little bit more subtle than what Stefan likes to call it, which is the Mangala effect, or what does he call it again? The Manuela effect?
What's an E and what's an A? You know, they're interchangeable anyway. So the one thing that this reminds me of, not to get too far off the tangent, I'm sure you've seen this Donald Marshall interview, because he's talking about cloning centers. It's even on YouTube, actually.
I don't know if I can Donald Marshall interview. Let me look and see if I can find it.
Yeah, I'm posting it here in the chat.
Okay, let's pull this open right here. All right, and then this is what you're talking about. Is this cloning centers? The Donald Marshall interview. They did make a Jamie Foxx movie where he finds out that a bunch of inner city areas where there's mostly just impoverished and exploited African American communities, that there's a huge cloning operation going on, which is fascinating because that's essentially what a lot of rappers have come forth and said, that they are either the victims of cloning experimentation or the the product even of cloning. And there could be something to this. I mean, we should definitely look deeper into cloning at some point, because it definitely exists. We talked about Eve, about Clonaid, there's
Right.
definitely something happening with cloning.
And
Further
the
along, I'll tell you.
last thing in that line is our most recent Ariana Grande, when she was on TV, and supposedly, this is according to MSN, she was just talking about some movie reference, but apparently she said she was asked, when is your album coming out or something, and then she said like, oh, I don't remember, I was at the Brighter Days clinic, they do the memory wipe. And I mean, yeah, I wish all these innuendos were always only fun and imagination, but I'm not convinced.
Yeah. And then, of course, just take the time to look into Clonaid, because it still exists. I mean, the fact that Clonaid is supposed to be this silly little website that was shut down in 2009 or something like that, yet it's still up, right? The website still works. So that's how sometimes when you have a website that looks this crap, that they have a lot of government money and they don't want you to, yeah, for real. I saw some super, did I see something? Diana just said, what's up, Diana? Good to see you. Good to see you, Diana. Good to see you. We're always happy to have you here. So here's the Maya Musk, the mother of Elon Musk.
So I don't know if that's really his mother, or I mean, that's probably the first question. Right?
Was Elon IVF? That's the next question.
We'll get more into this a little later, but I just found the picture quite interesting. If there's anything to it, it's not necessarily somebody whose progeny I would trust not to be traumatized and therefore actually qualified to run anything.
That is his mother, and she was on Saturday Night Live, right? He invited her to Saturday Night Live, and she does have kind of a vibe. Yeah, she seems pretty interested in her occult arts. And you know what? Hey, I would just say she seems like a strong woman, right? This seems like a
I mean,
powerful
called art
feminist right here.
is great. I'm all for it, but does it always have to be the same strange tropes and the same ugly symbols? You know,
I have
like
no idea what you're talking about, Raph.
Me neither.
Honestly, out of sight, out of mind. All right, fair enough. What about this friggin' USAID jockey? I don't know. Is he for real? Like, I can't even tell anymore
And
because
that's what the people always commented and said, like, "Oh, what? Are you upset now? You lost your USAID money." So
I
this
could
is
be wrong. I'm
Lawai.
owning it. I shouldn't accuse him that. It's mostly a joke.
No, that's
YouTube,
what
calm
people in
down.
the comments like to
Right.
say.
Yeah,
No,
but
that's
just in case.
for YouTube, that seems to be cool. So
Okay.
he's basically just reiterating this idea how different content gets boosted on YouTube and other content is banned, and it's just a follow-up video from last time. I'm not even sure if I remember what exactly his point was. Maybe scroll forward a little
Which
bit.
reminds me, next episode of Naropa will be called "China is Awesome #1" or something like that. You know, just to
Yeah,
see if
China
it
is
helps.
awesome, America is bad, something like this. And
Yeah,
we'll see if
and
we get double the views.
and like big pharma is big bad or big boss, big pharma good, something like that. Always good to be here. Thank you. Yeah, see, Deanna, this is why we love you. You're one of the best people. Yeah, if you look at some of these videos though, he made a pretty good point. I liked watching the other guy, what's it called, Serapin or whatever, Serpentine or whatever, that other guy.
Serpent ZA.
That's
Yes.
right. Yeah,
That's
I
his
used to
body,
watch.
basically.
I used to watch the stuff, but it's like, you know what? Hating on China is whatever. Like, I just don't get that excited by it. I think that I could see if you lived in China how you'd be frustrated by it, but like to make that big of an effort to criticize China when you're a guest in the country is kind of weird to me, right? It does come off as kind of propaganda tactics.
Yeah, I
Why
mean,
does he care so much? Why not just
they are
leave
not.
then?
No, they're not in the country anymore for quite a few years. I did a little bit of background research. You know, I don't have any clearances, but just what you can find publicly. That also, at least Serpentier has an illustrious backstory when he was an English teacher and this and that. Yeah, exactly. That's him. I just also noticed, because I believe I was subscribed to one of those guys, to him probably. Also, definitely the videos fell off. And I just only like to watch someone like this, just as I like watching someone criticizing the US or whatever else. Because even though quite some of it may be just propaganda or exaggerations or something, you usually find some kind of an angle or tidbit that willfully gets ignored by the other side. You know, so it's always just find the most critical, far-out views on anything, then try to discern what of it can actually be accurate. And then if you put all of that together, you know, in the terms of listen to everyone or as many diverse opinions as possible to get some potential grip on what actually may
It's
be
just something about his face, though. You know what I mean? I don't know,
not
like what it
completely
is.
incomplete picture. Face mask, or what are you saying?
No, I just don't trust him. You know, I hate doing that. Like, because what does that mean? You judge a book by its cover.
Yeah. The only that's
I could be
okay.
wrong. I'm probably wrong, but it just feels weird. Yeah.
The only thing here, I believe, the point in terms of censoring certain videos or not boosting them or boosting others, that can be proven.
That is 100% true. Yeah, and this is interesting, and I think it's important to watch this video when he talks about why changing the titles of your video will actually help in some interesting ways. And yeah, we should just try it. We should start making videos that say China is awesome, China #1, you know, America has fallen, Trump has failed. Call videos Trump. We should make videos called Trump has failed or Orange Man is really bad. How bad is Orange Man? Like just to see, because I feel like that's really the point, is that if you make content aimed at the dismantling of the United States and the Atlanticist regime for the benefit of the Rockefeller lead neo-Marxist New World Order, they like that better. They like to promote that more. All right. Like that seems kind of reasonable. Like they're agenda hounds. I wanted to bring it up the other day because Luke Rudkowski had a video taken down on YouTube, similar to our Naropa was taken down a few weeks ago. God rest, you know, its soul. And you know, I also wanted to say, like, rest in peace to Daria, because that's an anniversary that just shown up rather recently, you know, incidentally. But this kind of content that Luke makes has often been, you know, completely acceptable. He's just repeating what scientific media has been out and available. And so him reading from I think from the NIH website got his video taken down.
The NIH website. I mean, that's a good one.
Yeah, he was just doing health stuff. There was no reason for him to be taken down. I'm trying to find where's that article at where he posted. What was interesting about it was that YouTube, because he's a big enough channel, he's connected with all the right people. YouTube actually replied back. There's like a whole string here, which was better. I hate that YouTube will just ignore our conversations on Twitter, because obviously they know what's going on and they're paying people to watch our videos rather than paying us for you to be able to watch our videos. And that's the irony. The amount of incentive I have to care about what YouTube says is gone. I don't care. I don't care. YouTube, you suck. You suck. And I hope to God that the antitrust case takes you away from Google and gives you back to the people. You think that China is so bad? My God. But yeah, so Luke does this, and it was interesting to see Team YouTube respond. They said the best way to resolve this is to appeal. Well, Luke, of course we appealed it. And then Team YouTube says, hi, quick update. We reinstated your video and removed the warning from your channel. It was a mistake on our end. Totally get how frustrating this must have been. Well, it's like, what the hell? Why are they so selective with when they have actual humans check something to make sure something's okay?
So in our case, of course, I'm not going to repeat what it was, but it was literally just showing a picture or a site for 2 seconds. We didn't even talk about it. And the strange thing was, I'll say it here again, is that we had the same video up, but strangely enough, your channel got a strike and my channel didn't. I mean, can somebody tell me how that works? Yeah. So.
Yeah, Team YouTube. I mean, what are you going to do now? You're going to go destroy Raph's life too? What do you want to do?
At least equal.
God help you if you expect consistency from the scum of the earth. Anyway, The Small World, the Gypsy Children of Granada. I've seen this. I love this video, actually. This was something that we saw in school.
So, don't play it for too long. I'm not sure UCLA, they like to copyright.
They're kind of
I don't know.
Cheesecake, man.
Main point here is that, so just briefly what I wanted to mention about the China-US thing, and we'll get more into this at some point also with David, but it may well be that there's, however, background forces or factions, and it may actually be that the current Pledge of Allegiance between China and US actually is on the opposing sides. And that's why Russia should now again get integrated into the US allegiance, let's say, and China actually may be on the other side of that idea. So maybe that's partially why there's such a strange mix-up here.
It's just such a repeat, man. China says it's ready to fight any type of war with the US to the end, right? This was the whole thing about the tariffs thing. But really, it's that America and Russia have fought over the centuries, really, but over the decades, you could say, for sure, the last century, over the control and monopolization of China. And China is its own independent nation. It's its own independent culture. It's its own ideology. And there was a struggle between the Americas and the Russias for Asia, which led to the Maoist revolution in China. But also the Soviet Union, through Stalin's fear of Chinese supremacy, started to work again. I mean, first it's Russia and China working together. Then it's Russia kind of trying to silence and suppress and control China. And that led to the Kissinger solution, where America said, hey, we can actually divide the potential for a Soviet Earth, right? Because the USSR at that point was getting bigger and bigger. They were expanding into Asia and Africa. And it seemed like the only alternative was to create a United Nations Western alternative, like a American NATO hegemony that included China in some extent. So Kissinger's plan, that's why, I mean, it's funny, a lot of people hate Kissinger for whatever reason, but you can understand that logic that Kissinger saw China either joining the Soviet Union and the Soviet Union eventually controlling most of the nations of the earth, or the United States doing that. It was a choice between the two. And neither of those things were accurate, because really China has the power to be its own independent state. We're going to see that probably pretty hard in the next year, because the tariffs, this war on tariffs is not the only thing. It's also BlackRock, like we were saying, taking over the ports of Panama Canal. So China, which was trying to have control over, let's be real, the products that come from China going through the Panama Canal made a lot of sense. If we start building everything in the United States, well, China's already stopped producing things in China. You know, they're already moving things out of China. What's the difference for China moving factories that make your sandals out of China into Vietnam or into Arizona? Right? Like if all of a sudden they start making made in China jeans or being made in Ohio, doesn't really matter to China anymore. So the main thing that is the struggle is the tariff law. So this is why I think we're going to see a pretty big war or struggle, mainly over international products. And maybe even we're going to start to see it used to be that pants in Russia were different than pants in the United States. And I think we're going to see that again, that products will not be international for long. We might end the cappuccino economy very quickly this way.
I'm curious to see it. Yeah, with the whole Gypsy Children of Granada, this was commented on a video, one of David Ewing Jr.'s recent presentations, where someone said, well, look, here it doesn't look like they live in caves and don't know what to do with clothes or whatever. What I would point out, first of all, anything that's
Adobe.
Anything that's post 1960, in my understanding, that was the most recent cultural reset. So number one, and the other thing, of course, is you can easily give someone a few clothes or whatever and make them appear like this or like that, or even if it started a few decades earlier. What I found funny here, and the moment I marked down, was minute 3:27. Maybe you just want to go there and open the CC, or even literally go back 5 more seconds, and then we can literally listen to it just for 10 seconds. Or is that too much? I'm not sure.
God only knows. God only cares. Let's give it a shot.
When the Spanish people drove the Moors from Spain, the Gypsies moved into those caves. That was in 1492. Same year that Columbus discovered America.
Oh, that's great. And
that's basically the point. And I'm like, sure. And you know exactly what happened 500 years ago. I mean, yeah, good luck with that. So
mud people came in and out of the caves. Yeah. I mean, well, it's interesting also just the idea of the Spanish caves, because there really are situations where if there's some sort of a cataclysm, one of the safest places that you could end up being after your society falls apart, or you lose a bunch of your buildings, if even if they just burn down your huts or something like that, right? Caves end up being a place that you can go for maybe a generation. The problem with caves is it can be damp, moldy, and it's not actually the healthiest environment to live. There's benefits in the desert.
Stay there for 500 years. I mean, if
probably not is my point.
Homo erectus evolution or something, yeah, they stay there for thousands of years, and then they were playing with the dinosaurs or something.
It's like you have to understand that you have feces if you're humans, and the likelihood of eventually having some sort of a biotoxic nauseous gas that kills everybody after 500 years of poop is, there's a lot of practical reasons it doesn't make sense to live in that cave for 500 years. I mean, we love the idea though that humans just like lived in caves. It seems like more of a during a cataclysm, during some sort of a disaster or something like that you might end up there, or after everyone's homes are taken away, you end up in the caves, run to the caves, right? For sure. But yeah, also Adobe. For sure, Adobe is you build things from the quarries. So maybe you could say that the caves had to do with quarrying to some extent. All right. Well, then there's also matrilineality in Judaism.
Yes, unfortunately, this article does not really show what I found somewhere, or somebody commented somewhere, and I had one link. I couldn't find it again. Basic idea being, I mean, first question, of course, what is modern Judaism? When was modern Judaism created? According to David Ewing Jr., not too long
60s
ago.
Yeah.
But the one point here was that someone had commented somewhere, was like, yeah, well, don't you know, only maybe like 100 years ago, there actually was patrilinearity, or how do you call it? So basically, patrilinearity. So basically that it would be the father would be more important than the mother. And of course, I mean, with all the cultures, they always love to backdate themselves ad infinitum and make up stories and so on. But if there would be anything to it, even if the Jewish thing was a consistent thing like the way they present it now, if at some point they are just switching whether the main importance is male or female, I mean, that's a big deal, I would say.
It changed. It's not exactly. So, for instance, we all have a certain patrilineal descent because we use the father's line for the name, right? But there's also the matrilineal line is the Zerah, the Yisrael, which is the seed of Israel. So from the egg, from the egg, from the egg. So they do this for certain reasons. But it's both, really, obviously. You know, was your father's 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 father, the priest of Aaron?
All I can say is, according to a friend who visited there, the first question that was posed all the time was, is your mother Jewish? Yeah, and nothing else.
Well, your
So-
mother has to be Jewish for you to be Jewish. But the next
what I'm
question
saying,
still is asked. Once you know that, then there's more questions, you know. And then you could ask, like, are you Ashkenazi, or like, are you
Yeah, but
Mizrahi
if you
Jew?
didn't reply yes to the first question, then nothing
Yeah.
else matters.
Then you
currently
shouldn't
in
be
Israel,
at
that's
their
what I'm saying.
you shouldn't be at their table. That's the
Exactly.
then they're just gonna scream because it's basically there's an animal sitting with them, you know, and so you have to right. I
Well,
mean,
at least keep it kosher.
let's
Here
see,
it says something great. It
Yeah,
even has something. Oh no, what you showed it's enough. But just so people
I
can look
popped
it
it up. If you want to look
That's
into
cool.
the Jewish Virtual Library, a project of IAISCE, you can look into the meaning and definition of patrilineal descent and why it does matter, even though the mother is the most important thing. They say when intermarriage in the United States was relatively uncommon, the law had few practical consequences. But prior to the 1960s, right? So here's why I said the 60s thing. According to the traditional Jewish law, someone is a Jew if he or she is born to a Jewish mother or converted to Judaism. Therefore, a child who is born of a Jewish father and a non-Jewish mother is not considered Jewish, even if raised with a Jewish identity. Prior to the 1960s, when intermarriage in the United States was relatively uncommon, the law had few practical consequences. But today, however, more than 1/3 of Jews intermarry. More often than not, it is Jewish men who marry non-Jewish women. As a result, there's an estimated 220,000 children in the United States born to non-Jewish women who are married to Jewish men. In March 1983, the Reform movement broke from the Orthodox and the conservative Jewish sects and with Jewish law and declared that a child born of one Jewish parent, whether it is the mother or the father, is under the presumption of being Jewish. The patrilineal
really?
descent rule is, this is a newer thing since
But they don't really act accordingly, from what I understand, at least.
Well,
culturally.
so the Orthodox are not for it, and you can get into like Deuteronomist reforms on that, but they have a case for it. The rabbinical case for it has to do with Moses and whether, because Moses's wife, and he has two wives, and so his first wife was not Jewish, she was African, right? She's like Nubian or something like that. Moses' first wife, what's her name again? Zipporah, right? And so brought she's from the priest and prince of Midian. So then the thing that gets into that is, according to Jewish history, everybody's from Adam and Eve and is essentially Jewish to an extent, but it's whether or not you come from the firstborn or the secondborn. And you're not supposed to come from the firstborn, because the firstborn was from the slave wife and the secondborn was from the actual wife of Abraham. So this is why they're trying to really use it to say, okay, maybe you're a child of God and everything, but are you Abraham's wife's child? Because that's what makes us Jewish. And I think David brings up this point also, that if you count the Arabs as part of the children of God, like, because Abraham's told that he's going to have as many children that are sand in the beach, grains of sand in the beach. And there's not that many Jews. There are Jews, but there's not as many of them as there are Arabs. There's billions of Arabs. There's like 2 billion of them. So it's, it's probably about 2 billion grains of sand in some beaches. That's pretty reasonable. So we'll go back to Das ist ein Witz.
Yeah, so this is just a brief section on Austria. It's kind of funny. I mean, at least I also just saw some kind of a statistics where they say that only within the past months or something, this is now Austrian TV, I'm now speaking of German TV, like they have a huge list of like dozens and dozens of interviews that were made recently, where instead of actually asking some random dude or gal on the street, they literally interview people of their own production company or known activists or something, and pretend that it's the citizen's voice. They love to do that.
So they
for
have
demonstrations.
so this lady's pretending to be a homeless
no.
Austrian lady. Oh
No,
God,
no,
that'd
no.
be good.
That's what
Okay.
I'm saying. So here, I think it's legit, but of course, what remains is the selection bias. Of course, you can make it look any way you want, depending on whom you allow to speak into the microphone.
True.
And here, what this is mainly about is simply that, as I had mentioned, there was this whole play around with the strongest party that didn't get into the government. The other parties played around for 100 days, didn't manage anything, and now suddenly everything is moving forward so well and so amazing. And the comments here are basically twofold. One half, let's say, of the examples here, they're saying, "Oh, I'm not happy because the strongest party with the evil Freedom Party guy should be in the government if they are the strongest party that the population voted for, or the people that went to vote." And the other half is kind of like, "Oh, I'm happy, I'm optimistic now." And some even literally saying, "Yes, I'm so happy. We have a government again." It's almost like, wow, like, there is at
Austrians
least
get
this-
way too excited by having new governments. I gotta tell you.
there is at least a trope which says the very best thing a government can do is nothing at all. There may be something to it. I mean, by now I understand it's more complex than that, but it's just somewhat hilarious that some people literally are like, where's my new master, basically. I need to know who I can worship, or who can give me orders or something. And I'm like, really, is this your problem? But anyways,
My God.
that's the current situation in Austria. And now,
Joe,
like I mentioned
I'm
last
Beats.
time, they put forward this document, which is questionable as well in terms of what they want to do, and they don't really seem to have a plan. And it will be interesting to see how long this government actually will remain. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta hope to God that they have a 51% majority for a long enough period of time, but that's almost impossible because you can very quickly get a partisan coalition, and that's what they've worked on
It's
to
not
continue.
only that, but especially in Austria, you have something amazing, and it's crazy that it's even an official thing. It's called the social partnership,
Social partnership.
Sozialpartnerschaft, which basically is a conglomeration or meeting, but kind of informal, I guess, or definitely not part of the official government, between the workers' representatives, the industrial representatives, and maybe somebody else. And anyhow, these guys are making their own deals and have their own power play. So even if the Freedom Party, let's say, would have 51%, which now some people are claiming, oh, maybe then we have a change, there are still so many other factors that are deeply ingrained. Yeah. So there is always this debate whether
Yeah.
your vote changes anything or not. And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, if the vote actually arrives. But what I would just say is what definitely matters a lot more is how everybody spends their time, how they spend their money, how aware they are, because that's something you can vote with every day and not wait 5 years and then expect a new savior to come. When has this ever happened in history? I mean, everyone think for yourselves. When has ever a new government come in and it was clear that everything actually is a lot better and there wasn't some curveball like with Operation Warp Speed or whatever else
1933.
Again.
Just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
in
sorry.
the US?
Okay. All right. What about the Dunkelkammer?
Yeah, so this is just more information about this very suspicious death of an Interior Ministry official. There have even been, this guy was basically known to be the henchman, let's say, of the Black Party that ruled over the Interior Ministry for such a long time. I brought this up before. And now it's very interesting because more and more podcasts are coming out about this, and even more and more witnesses to the case
The death
now
of the Black Party henchman.
are now being publicly interviewed. And there is even a recording where you can listen to this guy, supposed henchman, where
Wow.
he's literally saying, well, I'm getting pressured by the Black Party. Actually, it's not legal to do that. Yeah. And also, there's so many suspicious things and so many things that obviously didn't follow due process in terms of police investigation and 100 million things. So what I would almost bet by now, maybe I mentioned this last show already, but it is like an ongoing story, the Black Party, which had control of the Interior Ministry for so long, most likely has something there, and they, for the life of themselves, do not want anybody else in there that is not part of their club, because
Well,
of
you gotta
course they have the
understand
intelligence service and all of that.
the Black Party. So the Germany's weird, you
It's
know.
the German version, so we have
Yeah.
to go to the Austrian version. Let's
Oh,
go to
sorry,
maybe it's
sorry.
even more interesting. So
Well,
before it's
I would just say that the Germany thinks that they know better than the United States and Russia, so they're going to go up to war against the United States and Russia at the same time. By the way, didn't they do that before? How did that work out for Germany last time? Anyway, so let's look at the Austrian Black Party instead. Black Yellow Alliance, is that what we're going to say?
that's funny. Because
Yeah.
here, this is not it, but this is
That's
cool.
hilarious because like Tartaria, you know, black and
This
yellow.
is this is the monarchist party, but that's more
Mm.
like a fringe thing. But wait, it's they actually want to reinstate the House of Habsburg-Lothringen.
That's pretty hot.
Something like that.
I mean, bring back the Habsburg house. If there was one
that's-
policy I think Austria-Hungary and Germany could use, I mean, we'd all agree on, is bringing back the House of Habsburg. Come on.
It's funny that they call this the Black Party, but maybe I'll just look it up for you. We can take a look. Or I'll just spell it for you. Österreichische or Austrian People's Party. That's the proper name. Austrian People's Party.
Oh, so that's
Supposedly People's Party.
the Volks Party, right? The Folk
Yeah.
Party? Okay,
Even though
okay.
Volk by now is a word that you're not supposed to use anymore because people say it's reminiscent of the 30s time, but here you
Yeah.
literally have it in their name. And
You can't even say Volkswagen anymore. They drive Kias now. Europe is broken. But yeah, the Volks Party for sure. They're a Christian Democratic party, which I gotta really wonder about. Like the Christian Democratic thing is interesting to me because I don't think of it the same way. European Christian democracy is. I mean, Zizek just wrote that book on Christian atheism. I think it's called. Is that right? How to be a Christian atheism, how to be a real materialist. And this is, I think, when I first was reading this, I didn't quite get the joke here, but I think the joke is about the Christian democratic ideology to an extent because they're not Christians, right? But they want to pretend that that's what unites them, even though they're all about bringing in refugees from Muslim countries. I don't know. It's interesting.
well, and making lots of money on the side, you know, and
Money's
not
money's
seeming
fun.
to care about the people at all.
Well,
Especially
I
within-
think also Calvinism, because Neo-Calvinism, right? This is like a Western Confucianism. Calvinism teaches this idea that you are destined by God to suffer and pay taxes, and that you have no chance of changing your destiny. God has, you know, you're essentially in some sort of a hellscape that is Europe, and you have to just continue to do what you're told, and that's your destiny, and you should just be comfortable with your station in life. Right? It's a very German idea, honestly, these days.
Sounds like it. Yeah, so we can move on to. I'm not sure if it's brighter. It's darker because it's literally the underground. But all right, we still want to look at this, or we can go on.
Well, I'm
So-
not sure what we'd say, but if there's anything else you wanted to say about the Austrian People's Party, I don't know if there's anything else we could say about it.
Basically, I just wanted to see if there's something that's like obviously strange, even on the English wiki page, because I don't think I've seen that page before.
Yeah, I mean, Austrofascism, etc. We'll have to look into it a
Oh,
little
yeah.
deeper.
That's of course that's an interesting link, and it's also funny because one of the important guys that's even still running around on the stage right now, he literally had like a Schuschnigg museum in his hometown, and Schuschnigg was one of the Austro-fascist leaders, basically. And it's the ongoing, trope, like, haha, you're claiming you're against all of that or whatever, but your own party members is more or less running the museum, for the Austro-fascists.
I can't remember when it's funny, I didn't remember that the surfboard in Surf Nazis Must Die is the Austrian flag, but I think that's kind of a tasteful reference of things to come. Hey, and thank you for the content, says Base Kothar. We appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much. I mean, the more we are oppressed by the elite fascist, the better off your content will be, because we just end up being more upset about it. We're more provoked today, I think, than before. So
Yeah.
Thank you for
And
being
everyone,
here.
please check out the links below. There's a list with all of Exertus's channels. And also it may well be that actually maybe next week we'll have an interview, which at least partially we're not going to stream on YouTube precisely because of this issue you just shown on Twitter with what was his name? Who talks read from the NIH website. So anyways, so we
Luke,
don't
yeah.
run into any of these troubles. We may actually do a show next week, which is at least partially only available on other platforms, at least initially. So definitely everyone, subscribe to the Twitch or whatever else, whatever you have.
The more oppressed,
That's
the more
a-
based we get. The
Exactly.
more basted we get. Yeah, that's
Getting
for sure.
pressed into the base. So what
I also want to say that Raf actually re-summarized and succinctly put together our new description default. So if you check through the information on this video, you'll see links to software affiliates, like you want your VPNs and everything, and also the garlic tincture and everything. It's all there, pretty easy to find, as well as some hashtags and links to everything you need to find.
The
So
main
thank you.
thing actually, you're very welcome. The main thing actually was that your join link for the membership was incredibly long, and there is just a much shorter version to do that, which is easier to read.
This guy who comes from a land where they have books, he understands how things should work. Open Sky just became a member. We love you, Open Sky. Thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy the content. There's always going to be some secret stuff in the members only because we got to be careful what we put out into the public. Apparently, I mean, I want to make it all available, but you know how it is. These people, what do they want from us? But yeah, also just reminding you, all the links for everything we're doing always available at commency.at, right? This is at Raf's page. You go to the log section, you can find our Naropa, and this is why you can see everything that we're about to talk about. So make sure you are
actually appear to have a plan somehow.
Yeah. So make sure you go check out the website if you want to know, you want to get deeper into the index logs. But so we're going to talk about the Tagu Academy. So what's the deal with the Bohemian Forest? I think we saw the first video from the guy, right? And he's doing.
So we will also interview him soon. Strangely enough, even for this week, I believe I was inviting 3 or 4 potential guests, but they all said, "Oh, I don't have time this week," or "I'm sick," or something like this. But the cool thing here, and really everyone check it out, maybe actually click on their channel link first. I mean, I put it there anyway. So if you guys look into the description, there's the link to the show.
What's the word you introduced me to? Like Hauskunst? It was like Heilige.
Heimatforscher. Yeah.
Heimatforscher. Yeah.
But Hauskunst is also nice. So the point here actually that this is a playlist, and so you have someone who, like Andreas on what's it called? My Face is Weiß. No, In My Own World. Which totally cannot be found on Odyssey on a channel called Illuminati Archive. But anyways, just like Andreas is actually going himself underground and checking these things out, what you have here is you have a whole playlist of someone who's doing the same and is in contact with international researchers, but he's an Austrian by the name of Gunnar Hiptmeier. That's one of his channels. And here the point is that it's translated to English. So you have 20 videos that are in English of like original, actually independent Austrian researcher who goes into these underground access sites, who talks to all kinds of people, and who actually has 20 interviews already available in English or presentations that are translated to English. And I think that's really important to spread and to have everybody check out, because how often do you get someone that's actually independent and really has interest in this? And we just had a longer conversation on the phone, and for the purpose of being succinct, he seems pretty based. So that's very cool.
Excellent. Yeah, we look forward to doing that conversation, and I hope you all have the chance to check out this playlist. Like we said, it's on the commency.at, which we just put a link even in the comments so you can see it right here. This is how it's spelled. This is how you spell Raf's last name. Okay, and then this was Earth-centered. We're now up to the Earth shape section. So we're looking now at Earth-centered, Earth-fixed coordinate system, the ECEF, geocentric coordinate system.
So I still don't know enough about this topic, and I still don't know enough about physics or any of it. I'm just trying to glean what I can from all the more or oftentimes less civilized conversations people have about this topic. It's usually better if there's, how should I say, not to choose sides now, but let's just say the conversation is different if you have a globe believer and a flat researcher or whatever, it can get quite unhinged pretty quickly. However, there's also quite a few channels where you mainly have flat researchers or just shape researchers, and there often more ideas are coming up. And this was just one of the things I was picking up, that apparently you have this type of a system. I was hoping, Andreas, that you already know what it is and you can explain it to us. But that's one of the things to look into in terms of what is actually being used to map the Earth or to
Yeah,
understand
I was
the
gonna say
Earth.
I don't know enough about it myself. I know essentially that this is the system they use for gridding up the Earth, right? That's essentially the point of it.
Animations look cool.
That's true, they do. Very nice little rings going on there. So it says that the Earth-centered Earth-fixed coordinate system, ECEF, also known as the geocentric coordinate system, is a Cartesian spatial reference system that represents locations in the vicinity of Earth, including its surface, interior and atmosphere, and surrounding outer space, as X, Y, and Z measurements from its center of mass. Its most common use is in tracking the orbits of satellites and in satellite navigation systems for measuring locations on the Earth, on the surface of the Earth, but is also used in applications such as tracking crustal motions. The distance from a given point of interest in the center of the Earth is called the geocentric distance. R is equal to x squared plus y squared plus z squared, in parentheses, to the power of 0.5, which is a generalization of the geocentric radius r of 0, not restricted to points on the referenced ellipsoid surface. The geocentric altitude is a type of altitude defined as the difference between the two aforementioned quantities. How do I read this? H apostrophe? What is this? H apostrophe is equal to H to the, I don't know how to read that one, is equal to r minus r of 0. It is not to be confused with the geodetic altitude. So, yeah, this is the way that they are able to use math in order to define locations on the Earth using the globe as a model for the Earth.
Well put. Thank you. Oh yeah, yeah. This is something I'm sure you know a lot about.
Yeah, when I did film stuff, right, you get the RE light set, and they all come with Fresnel lenses.
And isn't this one of the things where you can like super focus light also, or something
Right.
like that?
Right. Basically, what happens is glass will take an f-stop of light away from the light shining through it. So if you cut glass at just the correct angle, then you can focus the light into a linear path. And so this is used in lighthouses originally, but maybe not originally, but most famously in lighthouses, but also film, right? And so I think film lights in the old days, you could tell the difference when a movie was made right. It was made with Fresnel lenses. That's why old film is so beautiful. One of the major reasons is the lighting is a huge part of it. But yeah, cut glass, second order lenses, incredible stuff, really. All handmade glass a lot of the time. And these things are centuries old. I mean, you could use these for weapons. You can point linear direction light. You can see this is essentially why light from these small sources could be so bright and so focused.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Sir Isaac Newton was a flat earther and ritual magic mind control.
So here, I don't claim to understand what's exactly being said here. It appears as if this may be a rabbi or a Jewish professor or something like that who you see talking here. Yeah, I listened to it once. I'll have to listen to it again to properly understand. But one thing that stuck with me was that he was kind of like illustrating in a way how Isaac Newton and the apple fell from the tree, and whether that's actually some analogy to the Kabbalistic tree or something like that.
Interesting.
And other than that, it just seemed like, very interesting fringe guy talking with, only 100 views or whatever. So I was like, okay, it's something I got to put on the list as well. Again, I'm not claiming I completely understood what he's talking about, but one thing he says at the end is like, yeah, thanks to my wife, of course, thanks to the wife, because she actually colored in the graphs, and they didn't have enough money back then for color Xerox, so there was real effort put into this.
Excellent.
Interesting, at least.
Is there any particular part of this maybe we should show a little bit of it? some
I
sound
don't
on.
think I noted something. We can just listen in for a minute somewhere. If it makes sense to anybody, let us know in the chat.
Okay. It's got constant angular velocity. It conserves angular momentum, so it has an accelerating linear rate as it pulls out, and it's got a square law rate as it goes up and down. Okay, 3 parametric equations at 3 levels: linear, constant, linear, and square. The constant and linear are the ordinary laws of Newton, laws of inertia, and the square laws of gravitation. It makes an apple.
Hmm.
Hits you on the head, head, brain. From a tree. Remember, I had correspondence with a really fine fellow named Peter Dawkins, I believe, who runs the Francis Bacon Research Trust in Britain. Peter tells me that Bacon attempted to reconcile English with Hebrew to make it a sacred language. It was the same time as Newton, basically, very roughly. So this was the kind of thing that was going on there.
This is true. Yeah. We'll have to look into this is an interesting connection that he's making. So we'll check this video out. And then also Heidi Klum. What about Heidi Klum? Hold on, let me pull the page up. Sorry, closed it. Heidi Klum has lived many lives as a man and hoards objects that belong to past life. The supermodel America's Got Talent star has revealed that she believes she is living her first life as a female after living many previous lives as a man. Interesting.
Yeah, so I put many different links there. We don't have to check all of them out. And also, if you want, we have a few more pictures. I just want to show 2 or 3 pictures related to this, which I found were very, very interesting. Maybe the next link also, because it's also Klum, I think.
The video generator, the AI generated video right here.
Oh my God, yeah, you can show this, yeah.
Oh my God.
That's just like as a joke. So
Did you make this?
No,
Okay.
not there yet.
All right. Still, pretty good.
I randomly found this. So of course we brought this up before, and there's a few links in the show notes
Transvestigation, yeah.
related to this, and also related to this idea of, like you mentioned, the imperial eunuchs, and what does this mean? Why are they important? I actually tried to make a song in Japanese about that, but then a dear Japanese friend told me it's not really Japanese, whatever the AI came up with. It just sounds Japanese, unfortunately. But this sounded good still. So anyways, I kind of fell into that rabbit hole of looking into this whole trans thing and, who is what, intersex, God knows what, square jaw, this or that. So I'm just going to show 2 or 3 pictures here, because that's the main thing they always bring up.
Mm-hmm.
And this may not even be, I cannot say, because I'm not a biologist. I don't know enough about this. I don't know the percentage that, even a female or male skull could be a little bit different due to hormones, due to epigenetics, due to ethnicity, God knows what. Yeah? But that's one of the main things. And here I just want to bring up one thing, basically. And that's this image, which all of you know. So through watching all of these investigations, which can kind of drive you crazy because it makes you think like almost every celebrity somehow is a part of that. What do you notice, Andreas, between this image here and then this image here?
Are you trying to tell me that the Skull and Bones are using chick skulls? Bummer.
The thing is here, if you, maybe this is mapped somewhere more exactly, but that this may actually be, at least the eye sockets, I believe, are somewhat distorted. It's not perfectly symmetrical. So the question would be if this actually would be a half-half skull. And that in itself, of course, would be, at least to me, an interesting idea, if there is some important magic or occult meaning or whatever to this idea of, changing your gender or pretending to be a different gender or presenting yourself as a different gender or whatever it is, that this could even be encoded in this symbol. So that's the main point I want to bring up.
Interesting. Yeah, there could be something there.
So what we can do now, because we don't need to go through all of these, maybe the one thing we want to bring up in that list is the biological Leninism. That's actually quite an interesting concept. Of course, there's all these, all these videos on it. You can find them in different places.
Yeah. Transvestigation goes hard, bro. Channel 720. If you want to see some face masks, yeah, phrenology. Is this similar, or is this biological organism yet? Or no, that's not quite it, right? Further?
No, yeah,
Yeah,
we're not
two
there
more,
yet.
two more. Pizza my man. Here we go. Biological organism right here.
So this concept, if I understand it correctly, could be summarized in a way that you would want to basically bring potentially marginalized groups into the forefront or the limelight. And apparently the term for this is biological Leninism. And this would then in some way correlate with this idea, if it is correct, that more individuals than we are led to believe, not only Bruce Jenner, or what's his name now, Caitlyn Jenner or whatever. And even here is the question, what were you originally? How many times did you switch around and all of that? But this may be a part of the biological underpinning of that, dare I say, ritualized process of having people represent themselves as something different or taking lots of hormones or whatever else. And this, of course, all kind of precedes the more recent ideas where everyone's going crazy about transgender or women's sports or whatever else. So that may be something to look into at some point, or at least for anyone who's interested in the topic, this appears to be part of the ideological base of this whole idea.
And so the idea with biological Leninism is sort of that elite groups are forming genetic coalitions, nationalist coalitions of historically marginalized people for the purpose of overthrowing certain gene pools.
They would be put up front, but here I'm just gonna totally read from an AI. So it says, a theoretical concept describes a political system of movement where power is concentrated by elevating individuals from socially disadvantaged or naturally low status groups to positions of authority. So I summarized it correctly, actually. This is done, but here it says, this is done overtly rather than covertly, with the intention of creating more loyal administration or ruling class. The theory suggests, this reminds me of Assad or whoever, or there's other, like you have a minority religion in the country, but you put them in front.
Yeah.
This theory suggests that these individuals who might not achieve similar status under a purely meritocratic system are more likely to remain loyal to the existing power structure because they would not expect to maintain their status if the system were to change. Well, dare I say, this seems to apply to lots of different groups.
I would recommend to Chemical General, who's asking for mobile ad blockers, I would say check out Brave browser. You can use Brave on your mobile platform, and it seems to.
Oh, yeah, and also, as I'm sure you've heard, Firefox supposedly is updating their terms of service from certainly not selling your data to, maybe we might as well. One thing I can at least currently still recommend, I believe, is called WaterFox, which is something that I'm using. It's like a smaller company and it's like a derivative, which may not have that issue yet, I hope. And of course, other than that, anybody who wants to use Google Chrome-based browser, most are Chrome-based anyways, and even some say there is a conspiracy. Firefox is changing the TOS to make sure that there will be no other browser engine remaining except Chrome-based browsers.
Yeah, but Chrome is now being forcibly removed from Google's hands, right? Like, the antitrust case, the first product that they demand Google get rid of and just redistribute is Chrome. Chrome, they don't want Google to own anymore. So,
but of course,
things will be interesting.
Let everybody know, and I think that's very simple to get and install. Just use Chromium, so just use the thing without the Google colors on top. It's exactly the same thing, and it works. So Chromium definitely is a thing.
And then also the origins of militant transgenderism. Wow, Hamamoto going hard today.
Yeah, that's something I still need to listen to in full. But as I was researching this, I was like, okay, let's not only put these crazy investigators there who put a mask on everyone and then say, oh, you're a male, you're a female, but actually maybe have some academics talk about it as well. And his views usually are quite based. So I thought I'd totally have to put him on the list. But that's one thing I still need to watch.
Yeah, I haven't listened to it yet, so I don't know where we'd go. But yeah, I'll definitely check this one out. And we'll come back to it. And then She's a Woman by Kurt Roselli. Should we play this one with sound? That's what that one
Oh,
was.
wait. Maybe we do this at the end.
Okay.
I mean, or if we want to, I really don't know if they would actually copyright you or not. Just for 20 seconds in the middle or something. It's just a fun thing.
A girl who looks like, dressed like a man. Oh, I know her. She's a female. In Africa, that is so bad. This person is confused. Confusion of the highest order. Men and women are not the same. A carrot is different from a banana.
All right, well, the music's gonna get us pulled. I can tell, but the difference between the carrot and the banana, they're not the same.
One thing, actually, which I just recently heard from David Jung Jr., he did some research into this, and this may, I want to say unfortunately, because I think it's kind of insane, and relate to this biological Leninism in a sense as well. True is that both in particular Middle East countries, at least where they have a Christian population, because the Muslims have a strong bias against cross-dressing or whatever else, but that even in Africa, for the last 20 years, they literally funded people to more or less start cross-dressing and gender changing and whatever else.
Totally. Yeah, you were
And
saying.
of course, this can uplift you from poverty and all of that. You get the operations, then maybe you get a model contract or whatever they're doing. Hopefully it's that, and they're not, doing something
Probably
else
worse
to you.
than that. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Charity in Africa. But yeah, I mean, think of it. That's insane. And then here you have this guy, based enough is like, for Africa is so bad, like it's not an idea they would come up by themselves at all, I guess. Yeah. So there's even some tribal, sometimes you can see these like tribal interviews or tribal village interviews, and they're being asked, what about this? What about that? Even what about homosexuality or something? And they're like, what? What do you mean? What is this? It doesn't exist, like what's going on?
Completely confused by these concepts. It's interesting when you go to the African bush and you try to explain to them what problems Westerners have, and they're just like, that's insane. Like, they're all witches. They think that they can just like pick whatever bodies they want. I mean, they must, and they just take for granted that they can too. Because like, wow, they must just be like inhuman outside of Africa. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so basically we managed to get through, if you like, but also we can do it next time. I have a few more images prepared.
Yeah, share some of that.
Let's see which one where we're gonna start with.
And one more major reminder for everybody, go to Comency.at, and that way you can find all of the links to all of the content that we talk about on these shows, and you can watch them in their entirety, as well as, suggest anything you want, and we'll look into it deeper. That's what we try to do here. You can also find former and previous episodes, including the band episodes. You can see all the things that we've talked about ever. So it should be a fun place for you to gather.
So this is just a fun thing in terms of how many religions can you invent. Not sure if you've ever seen this meme. I mean, that would warrant even a longer exploration. But basically, you're just pointing out, what if the different sub-philosophies of Hinduism, I guess,
for board games, games in general,
we're like a video game. So which one can we relate to? Maybe Buddhism. Rage quit the main storyline, realizing it's just an endless grind, uninstall and request a refund. Or Advaita, for advanced mode, transcend the game, realize you are the game itself, hack into the dev console and become the game's creator. Or we have Karma Yoga on easy mode, play support roles and help out newbies, earn good karma points to unlock special roles and victory points. So let's see. So here we have, it's 25 images, but I think we'll get through it quickly. It won't take that long. Okay, this is just some Art Deco, because Art Deco is beautiful, I think, at least.
True.
We have Hmong. Well, Hmong, these are ones whom I first heard about through your Exertus History documentary, the Hmong in China. So here, let's just call it chicken feet from now on. Maybe then it's not such a big deal anymore. All the different nice patternings we have here, fish hook, so on. Oh yeah, this one I think is cool.
Oh, that's deep.
But you know about
David
this,
Plate
no?
would love this one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's a good one. And honestly, I was always wondering, because even in Austria, whatever, 30 years ago, children were drawing this, and first of all, I didn't understand what's even the point. This is like too simple, or what's this even supposed?
Of
What kind of
course. Yeah.
what kind of a game is this supposed to be? It was always like, what? Like 1, 2, 1, what? Yeah. So definitely makes more sense if there's some kind of occult background. But also then I
Totally.
want to know which magician managed to implant this into all children's minds, so they're drawing, the tree of life or whatever all over
You
each
gotta
school.
blame John Dee, right? It's gotta be. We're talking about. It's probably from the 1600s. All these cool things like happened at the same time. All these kids playing these things that go back to Ring Around the Rosie, right? There's probably some weird.
Oh, Journey to Jerusalem, you know that one?
No, what's that?
The Reise nach Jerusalem, Journey to Jerusalem is a common like kindergartner's game, at least in Austria. And you have chairs, and then you move around the chairs, and
Is it like
then
musical chairs? It's
Ba-
called
ba-
Journey
that's
to
it,
Jerusalem.
basically. Yes, music. Yeah, exactly.
What? You
Yeah,
guys call
exactly.
musical chairs Journey to
Yes,
Jerusalem?
yes.
That's dark.
Yes.
That's intense. Journey to Jerusalem.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you for that. That's intense. That's great. Wow. What? So do you know why? Did they explain to you as a kid why they call it Journey to Jerusalem or Trip to Jerusalem? Well, why is it that they're moving
They don't
chairs?
explain you anything. I believe at some point I picked up a reasonable explanation. Unfortunately, I forgot it again. But no, in school or whatever, they don't tell you anything. It's like, it's a game. And everyone's like, yeah, let's play Journey to Jerusalem because it's musical chairs. Of course, they have no idea what's
One
going
theory
on.
suggests the name was inspired by the Crusades, wherein several heavy losses were incurred. Another theory suggests that it was inspired by the Aliyah, the immigration of Jews from the diaspora to the land of Israel, wherein it is stated that the spaces on the ships taking the Jews to the said land were limited. None of these theories have been officially confirmed. Very interesting. Wow. And also like a metaphor for shuffling of resources and continued scarcity. Intense. Okay. And morals and dogma.
So I have 2 other folders where we'll just go through this one for today. So these are just a few particular screenshots, which I guess I, for some reason, specifically saved from David's presentations. So here also just to understand this apparently fundamental opposition within the New World Order. Apparently, different states and different power groups basically pledge allegiance to one or another side. And actually in the most recent presentation, which I guess is going to come out next week with David Ewing Jr., he's actually explaining quite a lot about this. And so basically in the front, you have all these actors, and in the back, you actually have princely families. They pledge their allegiance, and accordingly, whatever nations are attached to them also pledge their allegiance in the same fashion. And while the opposition may not be as, let's say, superficial or spectacular always as we imagine it to be, and there's many shenanigans and things going on, in the back end, there may actually be some kind of a real conflict. And basically the point is who gets to be the Messiah. That's the main thing. Of course, completely absurd. But anyways, here what I want to point out is that the potentially most well-known and renowned Freemason by the name of Albert Pike in Morals and Dogma literally writes, "It is absurd to suppose that men of intellect recognized Muhammad as an inspired prophet." So you can already see Masonry doesn't like Islam, basically, but also you have the similarities, whereas what does Freemasonry want to do? They want to create a brotherhood, just like Islam already has. And again, I'm not saying now which is, better or more interesting or whatever, but that there you have, even in the text, a clear opposition. And instead of saying, oh, Muhammad, whatever, he was a nice prophet or whatever else, they're basically trashing him,
Yeah.
So I think that's important to note. Then, we have 2 modes of instruction in Freemasonry, by legends and by symbols. Symbolism of Masonry is the only way to investigate its philosophy. And then mankind can be instructed in the abstract knowledge of truths only by symbols and parables. Is something abstract, is something, the abstract knowledge is something detached from physical or concrete reality. Maybe that's why they call it speculative Freemasonry. Then the main point may then be here. Yeah, in grave problems of history, such as the establishment of empires, the discovery and settlement of countries, or the rise and fall of dynasties, the knowledge of the truth or falsity of the legendary narrative will be of importance, because the value of history is impaired by the imputation of doubt. So please turn off the stream now, yeah? But it is not so in Freemasonry. Here, there need be no absolute question of the truth or falsity of the legend. So it's not about whether it's correct or not, it's whether you have a strong narrative so you can play your power games. Of what importance is it to the disciple of Masonry whether it be true or false? All that he wants to know is its internal signification, and when he learns that it is intended to illustrate the doctrine of the immortality of the soul, I was about to read immorality, he is content with that interpretation, and he does not deem it necessary, except as a matter of curious or antiquarian inquiry, to investigate its historical accuracy, or to reconcile any of its apparent contradictions. I mean, what kind of ideology is that? The truth, whatever, you know, if it serves the power purpose, it's good enough. So the object of the Masonic legends is not to establish historical facts, but to convey philosophical doctrines. So that may be something we want to keep in mind. Then here are just some more fun memes. My blood is wine.
Sure, Catholicism is pretty based in a weird way. I mean, I know there's a lot of problems with it. Don't get me wrong. I didn't want to go to Ash Wednesday. I still have some trauma from my church time, but bruh, come on. There's no blood in my alcohol stream, Oxifer. Continue.
We have some crowns. We looked at those before. It's something still I want to look into more, but I wouldn't even know where to start. But, you know, with all the significators, I'm sure there's something there. Oh,
yeah, you got to watch that show, The Young Pope, where he finally gets back the Pope's crown. That's pretty great. Like, he refuses to become the Pope properly until he gets the crown back from the Smithsonian. He demands that they return it. It's a pretty interesting show.
And then here, so someone saying, this is called art. This is the legacy and heritage of the West. This is what men of the West fight, sacrifice, and die for. This is victory. And then even Dios Vult, which isn't that the Crusader thing, yeah?
Yeah.
So whoever, Dark Triad man, Ivan Thorne says that. However, and even generally speaking, also according to the research David Ewing Jr. did, it may well be that a lot of, you know, even the Quran originated in Europe, right? No one wants to hear that. And all of those things. However, in this particular case, it is kind of funny.
The Chinese lady made the statue? Yeah. Well, of course. What did you want, man? China's good at stuff.
Exactly good at
God, and Deus Vult is that much funnier because God wills that the Chinese woman makes the best European art. What do you want? Your Arab culture from Europe, Europe culture from Asia, Asian culture from America, American culture from Africa. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have a great time. It's a small world after all.
So this is interesting also because showing different ethnicities, we learned about the term demographic engineering, which apparently occurred at all kinds of different times, which then of course begs the question, is this really correct in terms of what is displayed here, or was this only, let's say, made to be correct by simply sorting out different populations, orphan training them to different places, and basically going by, oh, you have blonde hair and white skin, okay, maybe you can stay in Scandinavia. Or your hair is a little bit brown, well, you got to move to Austria. Your hair is black, Italy. Your skin is dark, well, you know, we're going to ship you off to Africa or whatever else, or the Middle East or something like that.
Right. Well, you saw that they're finding, there's actually a thing about that I wanted to bring up earlier, not today, but I thought about this to talk to you about, was the independent gene of blondes in the Solomon Islanders. Have you seen this? So there was an assumption that the blonde-haired Pacific Islanders must be because there was some sort of a Nordic sailing, you know, that people thought. But what it turns out is it's a completely different gene. It's an independent blonde gene, the TYRP1 mutation, and it's not found in other people. It's not something that's spread out. It's not found for people outside even the South Pacific Islands at all. So there are, and this is something where there were people that likely the Mari-Wari had it. We don't know this for sure, but it seems like the TYRP1 gene was in the Mari-Wari in New Zealand, and they were cannibalized for the most part and eaten. So there's not a lot of that left over. But there were these small islander people that were these. It's interesting also, where are they from? Which islands?
Suleiman Islands.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, here are my boys right here. I can't wait to see them again on Sunday. I mean, really, they make me so happy. Like, is that a lion laying with a lamb while Emmanuel is holding either of them? That's adorable.
My point is, doesn't the Bible now always say wolf? Did we verify that yet?
What do you mean, the lion and the lamb laying together?
Yes.
I don't know what you mean. I mean, in Isaiah, as I recall, it says the lion and the lamb lay down together. But am I missing something? That it's supposed to be about the wolf? I don't recall that story.
Can you pull up the Bible verse?
Yeah, sure. 1 second. Isaiah.
Would it make you a good Mormon if you also know the King James Bible or something like that, and
I'm
you even
doing
know
it. I'm doing
which
it.
aspect?
Okay, so the
section?
wolf will live with the lamb, the leopard will lie with the goat, the calf and the lion and the yearling together, and a child will lead them together. The cow will feed the bear, their young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. The infant will play near the cobra's den, and the young child will put its hand in the viper's nest. They will neither harm or destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the Lord as the water covers the sea. That's interesting. For whatever reason, maybe it's a Mandela effect, a Mengele effect. But the wolf will lay with the lamb, I think, is you're right. But this is
a known, I'll call it also now Mandela effect, basically. And even though I have little knowledge, so it would not necessarily be accurate of the Bible or this passage, I would also have remembered maybe from memes or whatever else that it's the lion with the lamb. And at least the lion has an appearance somewhere in these verses, but it's definitely not the first line. And I would ask, if the first line says wolf and lamb, why not put a wolf on that image? I mean, maybe the Mormons again have their own variant of this or something, but I just found it curious, and it may be some sort of residue of this effect. If they have the plaque with the lion, I mean, actually the plaque should have changed too, then it would be really cool. But you see what I'm saying? So this is a discrepancy which I found interesting when I stumbled across this.
I gotta look into that deeper. That's crazy. That's interesting. For some reason, it doesn't stick out to me that it's the lion being replaced. But of course, the lion is a tribe of Judah, so maybe it has something to do with the tribe of Judah and the Azazel scapegoat ritual, right? Because you have the idea of Jesus as the shepherd of the lamb, and the lamb sacrifices instead of the goat. But really, it's the goat and the wolf rather than the lion and the lamb. That's a fun one. Okay, hey, here's our buddy. Totally trustworthy guy right here. Buzz Lightyear Aldrin.
Yes. So just to let everyone know, there's even these Masonic commemoration medals. Here you have a
My favorite thing is when people are like, hey, but that would be like a conspiracy. And like, how do you think you could get a bunch of people to keep a secret like that? And I just it's like, okay, cool.
Okay, this is something with Cantonese and but I can't say much about Korean and Cantonese and how it relates. I think even recently you spoke with Terrorisk about this idea. How old is Korea really? Is this whole Empire of Korea thing a real story? By now, without knowing the details, I would wager that it's a backdated history, just like so many other nation states have, unfortunately, for the sake of nationalist sentiment. So yeah, that's maybe just a hint here. I don't know enough about the Chinese dialects to really talk about it.
Scott's saying that the Old Testament is lion and the New Testament is lamb.
That's okay, but where's the wolf?
Hungry like the wolf. Blackstone. Yeah, this was crazy. This was kind of a bummer for Mormons.
And
But the
just
Mormons
to,
built another one, right? They have that other one now.
and just to be clear, Surah 47 is the Surah Muhammad. Yeah. And 45, 47, like the president, is 9/11, which again is Jesuit coding. Trump is originally Jesuit trained. Unfortunately, not somebody I trust. This is maybe interesting or not. I don't understand the details of it, but it would be interesting if what was his name, Walter Russell, had a different model for these toroidal things than what is pushed by Nassim
Yeah.
Haramein and so on. I
Interesting.
don't understand the details of this yet, but I thought I'd have to put it there. Yeah, of course. Enough is enough. Anyone who hasn't seen it yet, I've just found that I have a good resolution of this card. At any place, at any time, our snipers can drop you. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like Trump at all, right? Enough is enough is not a thing that he ever said. Illuminati card game is not something that repeatedly was recurring. And interestingly enough, if you look in the background, doesn't that look a little bit like, blood vessels or fragments within the blood or
Some
something
DNA
like that?
crystals going on there for sure. Also, the Superman reference is back because it's kind of like Gene Hackman. No, I'm sorry. You know, the bad guys, I forget, in the Superman movie, they get trapped in this like weird flat plane, this black square flat plane diamond that's being sent through space. When do you play the trump card though? Read what it says. Play this card on your own turn before drawing any plots. You may remove all zaps, paralysis, or attribute freeze cards that are affecting your power structure. However, preoccupied with your house cleaning, you may draw no plots this turn. So not relatable at all to this year in politics.
Yeah,
No,
nothing
sir.
has anything to do. Everything is coincidence. Then here, I may have shown this before or not. This is actually not by me, but let's say I just got this on first hand. This was, or maybe still is, the commissioner of the European Union for Transport, I believe. At least that was his position 5 or 10 years ago. And this guy literally went on a maybe not public call, but at least where you have several dozens people in attendance, so like semi-public thing for, officials and for everyone who, for whatever reason, has to listen to the guy talking to European Union people, and look at his nice, image in the background. I mean, yeah, I don't even know what to say about this, so I'm not going to say anything. Here, just very briefly, because I had brought this up before, that the media in Austria is highly concentrated. Here you can see a map, and you can literally see, if you trace it back, who is owning everything. You have like 3 families basically.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, who would have thought? You have the church, you have a bank, and you have Signa, which was Benko, who just went bankrupt, where I said he even owned the Chrysler building at the end.
Yeah.
So that's what you got here. What do we have? Oh yeah, this is something I just thought I'd bring up briefly.
Oh my God! See, because I read that wrong, and I was just like, you can't be talking about P. Diddy and saying Koons, but you meant Jeff Koons. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, basically just what I mentioned in an allegorical way last time, that if you actually need help for anything, probably, but especially for anything related to what's on the screen right now, you most likely don't want to go to the most popular organization advertising to help you, because it may well be that they themselves have the strangest connections, coming on from both sides to make sure you stay in the trap.
The man Bussy effect. I agree.
Yeah, here
Shriners came up earlier. Memory Man was bringing up Shriners earlier in the chat, actually. So this is something
So, and this is not all Freemasonry, but only Shriners, and even here you have quite a few. So just to let everybody know.
What fun, fun guys, right? Just like guys who like to have fun.
Yeah, please don't research the Jester logo. Thank you.
At the expense of like innocent young people sometimes on the floor.
Last thing, and how far it goes. So this was the so-called climate bonus, which we had for only 2 years, which basically was the idea that since we have the carbon tax now and all of that, people on the countryside get like $300 a year. People living in Vienna get 150 or something along those lines. Of course, this is the one thing that the government already agreed on now, the new great, coalition government of everyone who wasn't really elected, basically, or at least not in the primary position, is of course they will keep the carbon tax, but they will remove this climate bonus. So you can keep paying the taxes, but you're not going to get any refund, which was a joke anyways, because what are you going to do with $300 or euros or something if energy prices are doubled?
I'm going
it's
to
a
go to
joke.
Disney World. No, I'm just kidding.
But what I just found curious here, and this is of course just
666.
this is just my pareidolia, that basically it says you would get it, and the limitation for taxation of this amount or whatever else is 6660
Why?
per month.
Why pick
And
that?
it's not as if they couldn't have said it for a quarter or made it anyhow different, especially considering that Austria still is deemed to be a Christian country. And you want to see a 666 in an official document? Like, there's so many variables you could change here to make it look different.
Well, they just wanted only the wise, it says in the Bible, only the wise will be able to recognize the significance of that number. So they're really just flattering you, Raf. They just
Yes.
wanted to point out that you are wise.
Yeah, and that they're playing around as
They're like,
always.
takes one to know one. It's cool of them. It's nice.
Yeah, so we got some more images, but that's it for now. We'll bring up the other images next time. I'd like to thank you very much, and
Thank
everyone
you,
in
man.
chat.
Thank you
That
all for
was the
being
whole
here.
program for today. However, there is one more thing,
Yeah.
which is we're gonna play an outro video or
Let me
outro
just say
music.
to Base Kothar, popular kids book series right now is The Wild Robot. Wild Robot was, if you got kids, watch it. It's a good movie. And if I don't know, I like it even if you don't have kids. I think you should Wild Robot's an interesting. Have you seen Wild Robot? Do you know anything about that yet, Raf?
I'm only thinking of this production company called Bad Robot, which made
No,
some, but
that's
that's
good.
something else.
No, Wild Robot is okay. So I recently was thinking about this for a couple of reasons. So I'm just gonna end on that thought, and then you can say what you want to say. But there was someone saying that comic books were basically dead, right? Like no one's reading comic books anymore, right? Wrong. Anime, manga still huge, and Scholastic magazine. So in America, good mom, we love you. You're not my mom, but you're a mom, and we respect moms. And
I didn't see the name. That's awesome.
I thought maybe like mom is like a code name and you're like from DC and I'm going with it. Like, so, okay, like Earth 2 mothership kind of thing. But yeah, if you're a real mom and you like momming around, then you're going to love The Wild Robot. Wild Robot's essentially about a mom in a lot of ways. I was going to say though, Scholastic magazine, the way that they figured it out was they started selling these at schools. They come to your school, they get your parents to say, hey, like, I don't want you to be stupid. Like, you don't want to think, you want other kids to think you're cool because you're smart, right? You're in school. So they normalize reading, which is manipulative and very clever, and it works. And then by marketing that, they get people's parents to buy tons of books in the school. It's a huge racket. And because you're not even having to go to the store, now all of a sudden these books are in the school and all these other kids have it. You don't want to be the kid who doesn't have it. They end up getting you all hooked on, the same books, and they're even selling comic books. And so there's like incredible comic books out there like Captain Underpants, which it belies the profundity. It's so deep of a series. Captain Underpants talks about metaphysical concepts you wouldn't even expect. And the creator of Captain Underpants went on to make the other biggest thing right now, Dogman, which you really ought to see. It's kind of weird. It's about a man and a dog, and they get in this horrible accident, and there's no head left. The man's head's gone. His brains are destroyed. He's dead. But the dog's body
You have to reattach the dog's head.
Exactly. They can only save the head of the dog and the body of the man. So you get this man dog, and he's a detective now. He's a cop or something like that, because the man was a cop. So now you've got this half man, half dog character, but it's not like a man's head on a dog. It's a dog's head on a man. So there's some weird kind of lycanthropic werewolf bestial. There's a lot to this. I haven't even bothered to. I bet you somebody has done a deep dive already.
Egyptian, Hinduist, hybrid normalization.
Totally. And it's because also the immortality key here is that vampirism is related to lycanthropy. So he's this vampire werewolf police officer, and it's for kids. It's really interesting. And he's this primal being that relates to children. However, they made the Wild Robot series, and it made the movie's out right now, and it makes people laugh and cry. and it's basically a Terminator Skynet crossed with Wall-E, you know. And so these this robot lands on Earth and it meets these like sea otters, and then
Makes
it
them
has
relatable.
it's super relatable, but it's mostly relatable to a mom, you know, because it's like this character that learns it has to protect this little animal, and it makes all these sacrifices in order to protect the animals. And it also erases major parts of its own programming so that it can fulfill its destiny. It realizes its programming is actually getting in the way of it accomplishing its goals. So it removes those things so it can actually use AI to learn what's true. And in the process of this, it self-realizes itself into a beautiful personhood and rescues the bird. And you have to imagine this also, this kind of Rosicrucian phoenix egg thing that it has to protect.
Well,
this.
that's something AI should be trained on, no?
It's
If
an
this
incredible
storyline checks out.
And simultaneously, like all this horrible stuff's going on. I don't want to ruin it for you. It's actually worth watching, even though it's a kid's movie. But the rest of the Skynet Terminator robot server system, you know, elites, they want to integrate and kidnap back the wild robot, this robot that's become wild, so that they can study it, and they're going to dissect it and tear it apart because they're trying to find out what's inside of the golden goose that's making the golden egg, if you will. So it's really interesting. I think kids are. It's
But
probably
not
one of the
something
better.
that's inside. It's something that's in the field.
It's the meta that is the golden goose. You can't just cut open the golden goose to find it. Yeah, that's like you know that story. That's the one that's like the golden goose story. The mom says, "You're an idiot. You know, you should just kill the goose and cut out the thing that's making the gold." And then they kill the goose. They have a goose dinner, and there's never another gold egg again. Right.
That's the moral of the story. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Thanks everyone in chat. Yeah. Once again, I'll let you know, check out the links below for all the show notes, all the support links, all the various channels, where we're going to catch you all next time. And I'll send you all off with another song. And thank you so much.
I love you
Have
guys.
a great day.
Thank you for being here. These are good. I love this song.
Thanks, everyone. This was Neuropa.
Always will be.